Life is pain. Oblivion alone yields peace. You call me stranger. I call myself salvation.
The love of a god is not, it's a scar.
Destiny herself beckons me, then I shall know.
There's gotta be making up for your mistakes.
I'm the paragon of risk and reward. Behaving is more of a suggestion.
Life is pain. Oblivion alone yields peace. You call me stranger. I call myself salvation.
The love of a god is not a blessing, it's a scar.
If destiny herself beckons me, then I shall greet her like an old lover.
There's gotta be more to life than making mistakes and making up for your mistakes.
I'm the paragon of risk and reward. Behaving is more of a suggestion.
Fate is an offer I intend to reject.
You don't know me. I'm unpredictable, bitch.
I don't need to be a paragon to help save the world.
I came back for a reason, and I am not stopping until I find it.
I will solve the cataclysm, and I'll solve the mystery of myself, too. 4 paragons, 4 keepers, 1 stranger. Huh. Odds are in our favor. Now let's go save Endake.
Hello, everybody. It is so good to see all of your digital, non-existent faces in the chat. Welcome to the Arc 6 Interlude of the Second Stranger. What? Look at all of these. It's the entire cast. It's all of us. Say, at the same freaking table, it's all 8 of us. I am your GM and executive producer, Connie. My pronouns are they, he, and she. You can find me all across the internet at by Connie Chong. I'm going to pass along introductions up and over to C.
Hi everyone, my name is C. I use they, them pronouns. You can find me making very trans, very gay internet. You can find me making very trans, very gay art on the internet at PieSharpArt. And today I am playing your beloved Paragon of Sen, Okahyan. And I'll pass things over to Humna.
Yes, hello, my name is Humna and I use any and all pronouns and I am a TTRPG performer. You can find me on Twitter at @shahid_. And today I will be playing Jaron Gather, I don't really know how to describe them. Dragonborn, rogue, bard, artificer, all wrapped up in one person. And I will pass it on to Quinn.
Hi, hello, I'm Quinn. My pronouns are they, them. You can find me on the internet doing tabletop things and such at Quintastic_. Today I'm playing Sitlali, our resident grave cleric / paladin, Uwu, who uses they, she pronouns. And I'm going to pass intros over to Austin.
Hey everybody, what's up? My name is Austin. My pronouns are he, they, she. I'll be playing a Biku Ishtar whose pronouns are she, her. You can find me on Twitter at SailorSclerosis, at Sailor SCT Austin. That's all you need from me. Let's hear it from Max.
Hey, I'm Max. My pronouns are they, them. I play Dewey Quirk. You know who he is. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at StarchMonger. I'm going to pass it to, I never get to do this, Valiant Dorian.
Hi everyone, I'm Valiant Dorian. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm a TTRPG performer and Twitch variety streamer. And I have the distinct pleasure of playing Voska, who uses she, they pronouns and is barding all the way back to the homestead. I'm passing introductions over to Dare.
Hi, I'm Dare, resident troublemaker. My pronouns, that's what those words are. She, they, Faye. I am playing Gentle, our lovely monk who's never done anything wrong, but for real, pronouns they, them. Find me on the internet at Dare to Dream RPG, DARE, the number 2, DREAM RPG, and I'm throwing it over to Erica.
Hi everybody, I'm Erica, she, her pronouns, and I'm playing Vasanti Noxurzo, who apparently is never going to tell a lie again for the rest of her life. And you can find me at Erica Newgirl everywhere exists. Nope, strike that. I'm now Erica Please on Twitch, where I'm a Twitch streamer. Erica Please. It was an accident, I swear. I'm going to just turn it back to Connie now.
Oh my goodness, changes all around. So excited for this session. Okay, some quick things before we get started. The Second Stranger, which means this episode as well, is indeed sponsored by @DimitriOpines on Twitter and his company Explain Trade. Explain Trade is a negotiation skills training consultancy believing in the power of D&D and Transplanars to grow, tell great stories, and lift up our community. So check them out at explaintrade.com and level up your charisma score. Speaking of people who support us, a big shout out to our Patreon paragons. These are patrons pledged to our highest tier on Patreon. They include Azura, Bradley, Brooke Bright, Charles, Chiacres, Cora Eckert, Emma, Hat, Conding, Lex Slater, Marvelous, Purple Mouse, Scruffusus, and Target. And speaking of other ways to support us, like all interlude episodes, for this episode specifically, your donations will go directly into a tip jar for all 9 of us to be split evenly after this stream. I'm gonna put a goal to try to tip each performer $50, which would be a goal of $450 total. I believe we can hit it. So use !donate in chat to give. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, I get to do the recap. What? I'm so excited. It's my first time ever doing the recap. So, last time on The Second Stranger. Vasanti, Abiku, Jiran, and Gentle head to the northernmost reaches of Morose to find the tapestry, the only known record of the Stranger War. Their search brings them to the Chromium Order, where Vasanti meets her dad, a draconic titan named Tyrion. Jiran and Gentle find the tapestry, and Abiku regains her memories, and becomes Keeper of the Raven Queen, no big deal. Vasanti's search for truth, unfortunately, ends in disaster. Meanwhile, on the other side of Endake, Oka, Voska, Sitlali, and Dewey enter the stagnation in Jukai around Kinongbo and find themselves trapped in a time loop of none other than Shuhai Miao's making the former paragon of Sen. Sitlali dives into the after to claim the rest of Oka's soul. Dewey meets a potential suitor. Voska is confronted by their own grief. And in the midst of a fight against an aspect of the stranger herself, Sitlali becomes keeper of Sen. And Oka ascends to fulfill the role of paragon. Wow, both parties have been doing stuff. So use !recap to reach our written document for a full recap. And next, I also get to do the title. The title of this Arc 6 Interlude episode is God is the Sound of a Promise Breaking. From time-lapse video of trans woman collapsing inward like a dying star by J. Jennifer Espinoza. Definitely check her stuff out. It is real good. It's real gnarly and real good. And as always, all titles in our show come from works of art, poetry, songs, etc. by marginalized creators. The full verse of this particular title reads as follows. Once, I believed God was a blanket of energy stretched out around our most vulnerable places, when really, she's the sound of a promise breaking. Content warnings for this episode and our campaign in general may include fantasy violence, depictions of war, earthquakes, body horror, gore, blood and bloodletting, apocalypse, trauma and grief, death of loved ones, familial struggles, complex and complicated relationships, romance, alcohol and substance use, and references to sexual entanglements. Always remember, you can use !CW in chat for a full list of content warnings and !safety for a look at the cast's lines and veils to know what territory we'll never broach no matter how dark things get. And now, let's begin. One year ago, the stars vanished, the gods disappeared, and the world ended. Monsters came. Homes were lost, lives destroyed. For 8 dark months, a paroxysm of fear seized Endake. Magical catastrophes devastated the realms.
A rage in Talmud, an undeath in the court, a carnival in Nabal, an unspooling in Morose, a storm in Uhanahi, a herd in Kirtal, a stagnation in Jukai. But even so, at the bottom of a well, there is always hope. The Paragons came, broken like the rest of us, chosen by a destiny they never asked for, and yet they came. An alliance between the 8 nations was formed. Keepers began to emerge, spoken into existence by the shattered gods that still remained. They brought hope back, and with that hope came a star. A single star glimmers in the night sky, the only point of light across infinite darkness. Night and day, it shines, immutable and perfect, a beacon of hope in a ravaged realm. All across Endake, people pack bags, pile into caravans, turn their eyes skyward toward that star. And just like that, the great pilgrimage begins. In Toulon, we see a rabbit folk person, gray coat flecked with golden browns and reds, wrapping black linens around his feet. He pulls on black leather armor, shoulders a shield, straps a long sword to his back. And as a finishing touch, he puts on a necklace, the holy symbol of Mungshan Drdi gleaming against his furred torso. He snatches a quarterstaff off a rack and shoulders open a wooden door to his humble abode in the silent grove. There, he joins a convoy of riders moving through his forested village, all heading north toward that star. In Nabal, we see a pale-skinned Kalashtar woman with purple eyes and cloudy white hair swept up into a long ponytail. Red tattoos gleam on her arms, each symbol representing a different step on the path of her life. Barefoot, she rushes to the water's edge at Bacchanalia Beach, joining a throng of 1,000 people clamoring for seats on the next ferry north. And in Talmud, hiking across the Badlands alongside every sellsword, monster hunter, and degenerate of Ujval, we find a pink-skinned tiefling in denim overalls, striding next to a dark-skinned elven man pushing his own wheelchair along. Dalapathi Saeed holds out a hand, and his husband Kathor takes it, and together they travel eastward toward the chasm. And now, we sweep past the rugged red rock of the Badlands to find an ocean of tents, yurts, gurs, shacks, bedrolls, bonfires, wagons, caravans, thousands and thousands and thousands of people camping the area underneath the star. Encampments sprawl for miles all around the chasm, on Talmad's side, on Kirtal's side, toward the north by Morose, toward the south by the Godspine. The people of Endake are hungry. They are desperate. They need hope. They need to see that star for themselves. They demand answers. And the Alliance dutifully obliges, forming a strict perimeter around the area directly underneath the star is a massive military camp. A slanted stone wall, 20 feet tall, broken up by guard towers and parapets, encloses a semicircle of land at the edge of the Euclid Chasm. Populating this camp are Kyrian cavalry, Toulonian infantry, court magicians, Nabalian heroes, Nitbusan archivists, Talmudi statespeople, Uhanian sailors, Yukon hunters, top talent from every nation all across Endake. Recruitment tents pepper the base of these walls, eager civilians stepping forward to join this effort to protect Endake. Otherwise, the regular folk of Endake are kept at bay, both to preserve the focus of the camp and for their own protection.
And striding through this camp, barking orders, we see Toktoa Kagan, a human woman, her straight black hair pulled back into a no-nonsense low ponytail. These two wisps frame her sharp, angular face. She's wearing this padded leather armor, her sharp brown eyes cutting through this organized chaos. Strapped to her back is a glowing bow. Golden and radiant, shining with the warmth of Galtanger herself. Sunshot. The keeper of Galtanger, as she also now calls herself, nods across the camp in the direction of a young Firbolg woman. Princess Naua Kekoa. Hibiscus flowers adorn her dark, wavy brown hair. Piercings glimmer across her face like miniature stars, septum bridge, lips, ears, eyebrows. Decorating every inch of her light brown skin are also thick black tattoos done in a traditional Uhanian style. She nods across the camp back at Toktoa, then goes back to conferring with the paragon of Mahu, Manaya Wairua, a tall, half-orc woman in a short black coat. Also in this camp, we find a dark-skinned human man with long black braids threaded down his back and striking, inquisitive eyes. Duke Root Sweetbreeze of the Fall Court of Ravens is attending the stables. Druidic magic threads out of his fingers and into the manes of war horses, imbuing them with strength, courage, intelligence. And past the stables, sitting in front of a bonfire, a singular spot of calm amidst this hustle and bustle, we find an older human woman. Her long white hair hangs freely down her back, no longer schooled into a bun. A wooden cane leans against her hip, and her wrinkled eyes are closed as she sips at a cup of tea. Also in attendance here is, of course, Old Mama Lightning, Dovrenye Litso, the paragon of Utabathi. Outside a large tent nearby, we find two tieflings. One of them is the color of snow, soft and round, her dewy eyes a pure, undiluted pink. White horns extend from her forehead and connect at the very top to form a circle. A tail peeks out from behind long, elegant, sweeping robes topped with a little poof, a little white fluff. That tail is currently flicking in mild, restrained annoyance as the other tiefling smirks at Halo. Midnight blue, perfect skin, wavy dark hair, pure silver eyes comprise Kane. They wear loose, draping robes as always, their top surgery scars exposed for all to see. Golden rings adorn their horns and tail, and they're currently teasing Halo about a certain Aasimar. Thankfully for Halo, the tent flap they're standing in front of ripples, and out comes a tall human person in her early 50s. His beauty is holy and divine. Their features look chiseled from a block of still marble. One of their eyes has a single pupil, and the other has three. Emperor Zhen of Xiong, the paragon of Mengshenzhidi, inclines their regal head in Kane's direction. They make a gentle yet firm excuse to pull Halo away, referring to her as their keeper. And with that, Halo and Xiongzhen are off. And finally, at the eastern edge of this camp, before the walls slope off and descend into the chasm, we find Dr. Oluso's homestead. This cottage is the point directly underneath the star. Its barn, its garden, its training ground, even its chicken coop are overrun by soldiers of the Alliance erecting tents, building fires, practicing archery, hustling, bustling, and standing on the roof atop Dr. Oluso's cottage, overseeing everything in the beating of this war camp. Is Squeak.
Pick up your feet there, soldier. This is wartime, not snore time. And you, Captain, what's your name? I want you on stable boy duty. Humble yourself. As for you, bring me a glass of lemonade. I'm thirsty. Don't forget who set up this camp in the first place while Dr. Oluso was gone. Me! When I say jump, you say...
And then a bunch of soldiers reply really sadly, how tall?
That's right! That's right! Oh, wait a minute. Wait, they're back! They're here! Voska, Lali, Mercy, Dewey, Oka, Dr. Oluso, your friends! They're coming home.
And on that, we pull to a teleportation dais between the barn and the cottage. The sigils etched along this stone glow, pulse, shine. A pillar of light erupts upward, and then materializing, ribboning, lacing into existence, we see a Bhikkhu, Gentle, Vasanti, Jiran, Costas, and Rev. Let's start with a Bhikkhu. Who are you, and how have you changed since the last time you were at the homestead?
It's me, a Bhikkhu girl. A Bhikkhu, as we know from Finale, has orange eyes now. New color scheme, new black and gold color scheme. Sick raven back tattoo. I said back tattoo 3 times. Sick raven back tattoo. And still seems like you know, but more confident in the fact that she's like, you know, doing her best. And she's carrying a cannon.
Yep. Like a full-on, massive, ancient-looking, heavy iron cannon. And a Bhikkhu, as like the light from the teleportation dais starts to filter down, I think the first person you see in the crowd that's suddenly all around you, like this homestead is popping up, there are people everywhere. But the first person your orange eyes settle on is Voska. Voska, who are you and how have you changed since the last time you've been here?
Voska, our paragon Nebuza, has changed quite a bit since the last time everyone has seen her. She has longer hair now. The sides and back were recently shaved by Oka and maintained at the length, but the top of her hair kind of falls in these wild waves onto the side of her face. And it becomes even more apparent how long it is as it falls upon her face in flustered motions as she is surrounded by all of these people, bewildered by the increase of populace as of recently. She has her left arm supporting her lower back and is tapping her thigh with her black flute that she taps against her thigh nervously, kind of looking over at Oka. Her distinct eyes of blue, icy blue and fog gray, panning around at the new environments, hoping for some type of answer. Oh, so Squeak is on the roof?
Yeah, she's a little tyrant on the roof, exactly. I love that. I think that's what you see, Bhikkhu. You see Voska looking different, her hair is longer, she looks flustered with all these people crowding around her. But I think the next person that we focus on the dais, ribboning into existence, is Gentle. Who are you, and how have you changed?
Gentle, I think honestly looks a little confident. Things were going pretty well for Gentle. Bud, right by their side. I think Gentle's first action is sort of taking account of how many people are around. And you just see Gentle quietly put just something in their ear, and take a deep breath to center themselves, and they're okay. They just rub the top of Bud's head and just sort of kind of take note of the fact Squeak's on the roof. And that's weird. But yeah, they begin to look for their friends.
Yeah, as Bud's soft yet prickly fur nuzzles against your hand and your eyes slide off of the little monarch on the roof down into the crowd, I think the first person you see, the first friend you find is Sitlali in the midst of everything. So Sitlali, who are you and what's different about you?
What could possibly be different about Sitlali? Where do we start? Sitlali is 6 feet tall again. The sides of their hair both shaved, the top part a long mane, longer than you remember it, Gentle. And the pastels seem brighter, more vibrant almost. Black lips surrounded by a manicured pastel stubble beard. And they are wearing pants and a crop top fashioned from what used to be their dress, along with their armor and the robe, per usual. The Vanash scars are still there. Maybe when you get a little closer, you'll see what's on her chest. But from here, you can see almost like alcohol ink shifting across her body. Stars? A star map of Endake? Even? What's up with that? Weird.
What is up with that indeed, Sitlali? As you're surrounded by this crush of people milling around you, we pan back to the dais and we see sparking into existence motes of golden teleportation dust flicking off of her shoulders. Vasanti, who are you and what's changed with you?
Vasanti is this elf sorceress who's got all of her gear that she normally has for her Paragon gear is off right now and tucked into her explorer's pack. The most immediate thing you see is that she's nursing a broken left hand. She kind of is holding it the way protectively against her torso, and it never seems to leave right there. She's gotten used to for a while holding this. There's a cast on it. And for those of you who know Vasanti, first off, it's Vasanti now. There is a clear, distinct difference in how she's caring about herself. Whereas V was confident and would just run into things, Vasanti looks very scared, especially to teleport into this giant sea of people in every direction. I think Vasanti is just immediately going towards the rest of her group that she's teleporting in with, and particularly once Rev is in there, she's attached to Rev by the hip, and it's just a mixture of scared as well as fascinated by everything that's going around right now, but she doesn't know how to interact with this world right now, and that's about it. That's how she looks. She's just scanning everybody for familiar faces right now.
Totally. Yeah, as your mismatched gaze, I think, scans this crowd, they find someone familiar. Dewey, who are you, and what's changed about you as you're milling in this space?
Dewey's still the silly little pigeon man you remember. He's sort of dodging in between people soldiers carrying items back and forth. He just narrowly misses getting hit by planks of wood and people moving armaments. He's got his long Paragon robe. He's pulled it up, the ends up, and tied it around his waist because they keep getting stepped on. And he's still got his cargo shorts, to everyone's dismay. And he's standing underneath the roof, just looking up at Squeak, terrified that she's going to fall.
That's hilarious. I think immediately so many of you look up at Squeak as the first thing. I love that. And Dewey, as you're also looking up at Squeak, we're gonna pan back to the dais to find our final person that we're gonna focus on, Jiran. Who are you and what's changed about you?
I think, honestly, when Jiran comes up on the dais, it's not even him that your eyes directly go towards, because they're carrying this giant tube on their back. And that is the tube in which the tapestry of Moreau's has been rolled up into. And so they're kind of just handling the straps as they come in, because I imagine the teleporting is still not something that they're fully used to. So I think they kind of stumble a little bit and in it have jostled the carrier a bit. And so they're kind of holding on to that. The main thing that's different about the way that Jiran looks is that Well, firstly, their whole countenance, their whole sort of aura, I guess, is a lot more cautious than it used to be. Their presence is a lot quieter and a lot less here and in your face than it used to be. And beyond that, their horns are broken, all except one of them. And you can see that as they kind of like have their hood pulled down, their hair in a ponytail, you can see that every single one of their horns, except for one, is completely shattered. And as they're trying to keep this tapestry on their back, this hand loom under their arm, like from falling out, they kind of like look out into the crowd.
Jaron, as you scan the crowd, I think your eyes fall upon the final person here. Oka. Oka, who are you, and how have you changed since the last time you were here?
That is a big, big question. And I think the change is, in fact, so drastic that it's not Oka who Jaron finds first. It's Kane, who's reaching up and touching the face of... Who is that? Is that... Holy fuck. A person with slate gray skin, scars, yes, a sword tattooed down their arm, but this person has long, long black hair, shaved on the sides, braided into this like tight braid that nearly touches the ground. These black and blue robes etched through with depictions of rabbits and foxes and elk, etched up these beautiful robes that are some kind of tessellation of darkness and thread, who also wears silver-plated bone across their chest, somewhere between a corset and a breastplate, forming this window with the black cloth underneath to reveal a perfect collapse of scar tissue at the center of their chest, bright scoring under their pectoral muscles, and 4 white, feathery, gigantic wings. 4 of them. 2 on each side, 2 smaller ones that kind of come out of the underside of their ribs. And above their head, behind them, as they're still kind of turned towards Kane, Oka has a halo. And by a halo, I mean 8 halos of blood. Liquid blood that turn in these clock-like work wheels behind their head, constantly moving, constantly shifting, 8 concentric circles that are always changing. And Oka kind of looks at Kane, the 2 of them smile at each other. Kane lifts a hand up, I think, to cup their face. And then Oka turns, and in one eye they have blue eyes with blue sclera and 2 pupils in each eye, and in the other, a silver eye, a familiar silver eye. Is that Kane's eye? And they blink, and their eye changes. And every time they blink, their eye turns different. A lizard's eye, a cat's eye, somebody else's eye, always looking back at you.
Wow, that was gay! Yeah, so... Jaron, that's who you see. I think Kane cupping the side of Oka's face, and I think leading up to kiss them. And when Kane sort of comes back down, Oka, you feel a strong nudge at your back, and a familiar, kind of husky, brusque voice go, "Hey, looks like they're back. Sidlali, get your ass over here." And Mercy, this half-orc woman with this long kind of crimson hair done up in a ponytail, this bristling muscle, all leather armor, massive greatsword, javelin strapped to her waist, starts to stride forward and I think reaches out to like grab at your wrist, Oka, to pull you forward toward the dais.
And Oka lets themselves get dragged along for approximately 2 seconds, I think, before they actually break out of Mercy's grasp to run forward. All like their wings hit like several people on the way forward. It is very clear that they are not used to having them out all the time. And they like bash somebody carrying a big plank of wood like in the back fully, and they go, "Oh fuck, sorry," as they like run up to the dais.
I think the person like lunges forward and a couple of piles of wood pop out and almost hit the ground, but then bing, they glow. ensconced by blue light, as Dr. Oluso raises a hand and they like gently levitate the piles of logs back into their grasp. And as we pan over and glance at Dr. Oluso, we see they're no longer in their white lab coat. They're wearing a sleeveless black turtleneck that is tucked into their trousers, and they've got boots on as well. And their hair is brown, is this deep, dark brown fully, and so are their eyes. They're no longer blonde and blue-eyed. And Dr. Oluso just sort of smiles at you, Oka, and says, "Go." And Oka, you charge forward. What do you do next?
They take the steps of the dais 2 at a time, at least, and they crash into Jiran in the biggest hug possible, like crushing him against them.
I don't think Jiran has the arms at the moment to hug back. They're holding so many things, so many very large, very important things, and I don't think it has fully, processed for Jiran that this is Oka. Yes, this is Oka. Clearly this is Oka, but is this Oka? And so he's just kind of, there, kind of frozen, not really sure what to do. And he just looks at you, Oka, and... Oka?
What the fuck happened to your horns? As Oka, pulls away.
What the fuck happened to you?
God stole my clothes.
Someone who wanted to be a god stole my horns.
And they just pull you back into, another hug.
And I think this time, Jiran kind of, readjusts a little bit and, tries to give Oka a hug back. And they, squeeze really tightly, I think, into Oka. A little awkwardly, I think, because they're also not sure where to put their hands with the new 4-wing situation going on. And they kind of whisper into Oka's ear as they're hugging. I've missed you.
I missed you too. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, clearly we do. I guess the whole Paragon thing worked out then, did it?
You could say that. And Oka smiles. It's not like a smirk. It's not sarcastic. It doesn't even look like the kind of grimace smiles they've tried to do in the past, where they're trying to smile. They smile. Truly. Maybe for the first time that you've ever seen.
I'm glad that it worked out for you. I really am. I mean that. And Jiran does. They do mean that. I think they wouldn't have a moment ago. I think when they asked that question of whether or not the Paragon thing worked out, it was still laced with this idea that that's not what should have happened. But seeing Oka smile like that so genuinely for the first time, he genuinely means it.
And Oka kind of keeps this small smile on their face and turns to Gentle.
I like the wings.
Thanks. I was hoping you would. And they pull Gentle into another crushing hug.
Gentle will reciprocate. So, how's things been going on your side of everything?
Well, and Oka turns kind of down the dais to look for Sitlali.
I think Sitlali has a new cane that is adjustable. Thanks, Dewey. Because we love a tall monarch, but sometimes a small monarch, you know? And Sitlali is just kind of has stopped at the foot of the dais and is just kind of staring at Gentle. And then when attention is brought to them, she just kind of turns and looks in a random direction and looks very interested in whatever a random seller is selling, and then looks back very casually and is like, oh, hey, and then comes up the stairs.
Hi, you look great, by the way. also you're taller, getting still like not as tall as me, but like mostly there.
Got some stuff back that I had lost.
Oh, like Gentle smiles incredibly genuinely at that. Good. Yeah, Bud and I are doing pretty okay. Fought a dragon, solved the mystery with like dragon killing poison. That was kind of fun. It's been pretty all right.
We bonded over attempted murder.
But okay, we're getting there.
Can I have a hug?
Oh, of course. I'm sorry. And Gentle, of course, gives Silalia a hug.
Gentle! It's good to see you. And Mercy strides forward and like claps a big ol' hand on your shoulder.
I think like Gentle is thrown off a little by it, but has like enough time to react and not completely like just faceplant. Just being thrown off by it. Hi, Mercy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Actually, you know what? I'm feeling actualized. I'm feeling really realized. Yeah, being stuck in a shattered time loop over and over and over again where you're forced to grapple with your worst failures really tends to do that to a person.
Oh.
Babe, we can talk about that later.
Oh, yeah. But you look great, Gentle. Glad you're holding up and representing the hounds up in Moreau's. Hi, Jerron.
Hey, Mercy. I thought the Dream Shield was supposed to help us grapple with our worst failures.
Don't you know you're supposed to go to therapy more than one time?
I suppose I didn't know that, no.
How's unemployment treating you?
Mercy.
Mercy.
Well, I mean it genuinely. I don't mean it as a
Mercy.
dig. I mean it genuinely, Oka.
Pretty good, actually. Being back home was nice.
What the fuck happened to your face?
Mercy.
What? Am I not allowed to point out the obvious? Like, you have to
Not
ignore.
like that, no.
It's a gift from Vasanti's father, actually.
Oh, shit. And I think, speaking of Vasanti and her father, we find, I think, while this scene's been happening, Vasanti, where do you find yourself gravitating toward?
I think she finds Dewey, I think, would be like one of the nearest people that she sees, and she would, in a very surprising display of emotion from where Dewey's perspective is, Vasanti literally like not runs, but kind of like almost gallops over, and with her good arm, like wraps it around Dewey as she like sort of crouches down, and then like more gently takes the broken arm and like kind of puts it behind and just gives Dewey like the biggest squeeze. And Dewey, you might even feel like a little bit of tears falling on your shoulder a little bit.
How have you been?
The laughter, it's hard to tell now. Laughter and cries are kind of like mingle after that question. I've had a rough couple weeks, Dewey. How are you doing, friend?
Fine. Did you get to work things out with the dad?
Let's just say that, yes, I met my father. Yes, he's an asshole, and we won't be hearing from him anymore.
I guess that's congrats. What happened to your arm? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's a gift from my father. So,
he sounds so generous.
Yeah, actually, about this, do you think I need a little bit of help, Dewey?
Yeah, for sure. I just did a thing for Jerron. I hope he's taking good care of that. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
It's really good to see you.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk about this later. Do you know anything about like the weave not going through arms or body parts anymore when it's broken?
And I think on Dewey's like stunned silence, we're gonna cut back to the dais upon the Hounds reunion.
And I think upon hearing the talk about Vasanti's father, Oka kind of like gets this focused look, sees Vasanti running in the opposite direction, kind of like touches Duran's shoulder very quickly. I'll be right back. And they like peel away.
And Duran kind of like turns over towards Sitlali, and who they haven't really acknowledged yet, I think, because when they look at Sitlali, I think like their face flushes a little bit. And when there's like a clear like beat in the conversation between Gentle and Sitlali, he walks up. Sitlali, you look good.
Thanks.
What exactly happened? You got your magic back, clearly.
Yes. Keeper of Sen?
Keeper of who?
Sen.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that. But congratulations, I think.
I think it's complicated. I mean, and it isn't at the same time, but and they kind of tuck their hair like awkwardly behind one ear. Did you get my last letter before we went in?
Yeah. And I think Duran kind of goes to like put like an arm behind their head, but then realizes they're holding the hand loom and can't do it appropriately. So it just looks very awkward as they're like, oh, no, gonna put that back. Yeah, I did. Honestly, I was really worried when we weren't able to contact any of you. What happened? Mercy said something about being stuck in a time loop?
And I think Sitlali sighs and is like, maybe over some tea we can talk about the everything. And I think they kind of absentmindedly rub at their chest, and you are now, both of you, close enough to notice, Gentle and Duran, there are 3 tattoos, ? Of marigolds in full bloom that kind of stem out from some of the lines of the Vinash scars.
And Duran kind of like reaches out and doesn't touch Sitlali, but just like traces a marigold in the air. That's new.
And I think Sitlali takes a step forward so that Duran does touch there.
And on that point of contact from Duran toward a keeper, we're gonna pan over to another keeper in this space. Abiku, where do we find you attracted to?
Abiku is walking with Cannon in one arm and Casas in the other one towards Vasca.
Wait, like they're a child under your arm?
No, they want it up. So they're trying to scan for Vasca in the crowd. There's so many people.
Okay, I'm into it. Costas is riding your shoulders, and for the first time in public, Costas's hood is down. They're like showing their face, this like dark skin on one side with this like braided black hair and this like pure bluish whitish like ice on the other. This like elf looking around. Vasca. Hey, Vasca, hey! And Costas starts waving really big when they see you.
I think Vasca was just kind of like, well, I had friends here and now they're gone. And turns around and sees her friends from so long ago. And I think like, I still think for the first time for Abiku and Costas, there's this maybe a little girlish, like huge wave that comes from Vasca as she shoves her flute back into her side belt and rushes to meet Abiku and Costas. Costas is still on top of Abiku, right? And just jumps into a hug towards Abiku.
I dropped the cannon.
There's like a boom, and it like shakes the ground, and several vendors' stalls go clatter, 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 right? They go, whoa! And the two of you collide into each other.
Vasca just gives you a big hug and then looks up at Costas and goes, what are you doing up there? Come back down here.
Voska, and like Costas climbs down you like a cat getting down a tree, which is to say ungracefully. They just sort of fall. They fall like a full 8 feet and hit the ground. They scramble up. Voska, you look, your hair, you look happier.
I was going to say hotter again, but happy as it goes.
Yeah. Well, you can't just say someone's
Why?
hotter.
Why?
I don't know. Well, I mean, she is hot and has always been. Are you laughing, Voska? Are you like genuinely laughing?
Yes, I miss you both so much, and just kind of like wraps her arms around the two of them.
I don't remember your hair growing this fast. I could be wrong though. I didn't keep track of how fast your hair grew.
And Voska like slightly pulls away, but still has her arms around the two of them. We were stuck in time, in the stagnation. And then time caught up, and it was a year's worth of time. That caught up. Oka, and I think as she says Oka's name and like fixes it, Oka made it look a little bit more presentable.
I think it looks good. Now we know.
Mahu's spicy tits. That's whoa.
I just look at. Oh, so you can say that, but I can't say Vaska Gata.
What? I'm not. Just. And like Costas, like their, the skin side of their face flushes a little bit.
I think Voska like looks at the both of them and goes, Did you receive my missives?
Yes, and I take the sash is like around my waist. Yes, good. I sent a few birds and then they came back, and so then I stopped trying to send birds because I assumed you were like, I didn't think trapped in time. I thought in ice, or like you had perished, or like like something normal.
No, certainly that would be the more normal occurrence, but it seems that with the Paragons, we will find the strangest aspect to be a part of. There's so much I need to tell you all. How goes our home? How goes Morose?
Oh, it's okay. There was a dragon mage. I knew him. He started the war. Not this war, or the last war. The
1,000-year war. Like 10,000 years ago.
Yes.
This dude was like 15,000 years old.
Yes, he killed my wife.
You're
right.
Oh yes, I remember her now. Here, come sit. I will tell you, but she was lovely.
I think like Voska like sits cross-legged like on the ground somewhere like away from all of these people.
She doesn't know that the Piku sat down.
It doesn't.
She sits like on the cannon and taps the cannon for story.
Oh my god. Okay, yep. Voska sits by you at the bottom of the cannon.
I love that. And I think like on the three of you sitting and like Costas leaning into a Biku and being like, I do think we should double check to make sure this is actually Voska though, because I don't know if I've ever seen them this happy, like ever, in their life before, ever.
I could ask them if they know where your birthmark is.
That's true. Hey Voska, remember when we were all kind of, you and Abiku were naked in a hot spring, but I missed that? Well, speaking of bodies being naked, and we're going to cut away from that transition back to Strike Team B with Oka approaching Vasanti and Dewey.
Oka is cutting through the crowd, still kind of, I think they have just at this point picked their wings like up as high as they possibly can, which makes them look a little intimidating, so I think people are getting out of their way pretty fast, as they're making a beeline over towards Vasanti and Dewey. And I think they just kind of call out, "Hey, V, did you finally take care of that piece of shit ex of yours?"
Oh my gosh. Vasanti just fucking loses her shit and starts crying so fucking hard. Oh, she just becomes like a mess on the ground. She just like literally melts off of Dewey and just like head in knees, just bawling her fucking head off of that question.
Dewey, 2 seconds too late, does like the hand across the throat, like, no, don't. Well.
Oka pauses, stands there. Uh-oh. And they kind of very cautiously approach and kneel down. "Last time I saw you cry this hard, it was after we saw Sievert for the first time, and it was Well, and they just kind of put a hand on her back.
I think Vasanti sort of like reaches over and like kind of buries her head, but not quite into Oka's shoulders. Like Vasanti doesn't even see the changes in Oka at this point. It's just through these streams of tears. Oh God, Sievert, he was actually a really good person this whole time.
What?
He was protecting me this whole time.
Protecting you from what?
From my father. My father's been trying to kill me this whole time, my whole life.
And Oka just takes that in. And I think very quietly they fold one of their wings over Vasanti's shoulder and kind of like almost pull her in with it. And the ground by their feet begins to, like the snow around their feet begins to melt. And these little like springs of new growth like kind of come up and almost like crawl up Oka's legs and then turn orange, wither, and die as Oka casts healing hands, not because you're hurt, but because you're hurting. As I think this kind of like glow starts to suffuse you as Oka just kind of sits there with you, and you can hear this almost like whirring as one of those halos kind of like clicks into place behind their head.
And Vasanti feels all of this entering into her. It's this sort of this warmth, and it just feels so calming, and she feels her heart slowly calming, and she just feels her breath coming, and she's like, all of a sudden she's like more present. She just feels herself on the ground next to Oka with this angel wing, and this is the first time Vasanti like looks at this, and then like looks back at Oka and like sees, oh my gosh, Oka, you've changed.
Yeah, it hurt like a bitch, but change does. And Oka blinks, and the next time that they blink, there is a Kelly green eye in one of their eyes, just for a split second. And they blink again.
And I think in that moment, Vasanti sort of cuddles a little bit harder against Oka. I've missed you so much. I tried to write letters and they kept coming back. And also, can you call me Vasanti from now on only?
Yeah, whatever you want. Sorry about the letters. It was I hope Dewey filled you in. Broken time. I missed you too. Dewey, could you please come over here? And Oka extends their other arm for another hug.
Oh, group hug time. I missed this.
You don't have to say it like such a dad. It's embarrassing.
I think that makes Vasanti laugh enough that like she's feeling like a lot more, like a breath of fresh air. She probably hasn't laughed from something in days, weeks, and it just feels really good to like feel home with Oka and Dewey right now.
And I think as the three of you hug, there's like a moment where it's just the three of you, and then like two big strong arms come up from behind Vasanti and like hug as well as like Rev joins the group hug, and actually she like picks up the three of you, like crunching your wings, all four of them, in against your back, like crumpling them and up off the ground. Oka, Dewey too, I've missed the two of you. And then she drops the three of you.
Do you really need to do that?
Of course I do. Looks like I'm not the only one with feathers attached to my aesthetic.
We've always shared, okay?
Yeah, but these seem semi-permanent. Good job. And that halo? Very nice.
Thanks. I keep telling people a god stole my clothes, and that is what happened.
Yeah, I have no idea where my old armor went after I became Paragon. It's just gone.
Can I get it back somewhere?
I know, right? It had sentimental value.
My vest?
I had that stash for a long time.
That was a nice vest. Dewey, your shorts, I wish.
I lost my favorite.
Took them.
I lost my favorite pair of cargo shorts.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but these are an upgrade, Dewey. Let's be real. Like, these are top of the line god shorts.
These are
Please
from my
don't
closet.
give him any ideas.
Dewey, I've missed you too. I can't lie, I did, it's nice to see you again.
Same. It's Mercy did all the bullying for you while you were away. So
Yeah, you seem to have a thing about being bullied by huge muscular women.
Hey, don't knock it till you tried it.
Oka, I like the hair. Maybe I should do you a favor and braid it for you, style it for you.
You could try. Grows back overnight.
Oh. Got it. And I think like we pan away from this conversation back to the totally just buds squad with Jiran, Gentle, and Sitlali. And as Jiran has, I think, fingers touching Sitlali's chest where the marigolds are, Gentle, you're witnessing all of this. You feel something tugging at you. Similar to the tugging you felt toward the star back in the Iron Citadel that compelled you to go out onto the balcony and witness. You feel that similar kind of like story thread tugging, yanking you in the direction of the tapestry, I think, that is currently in the tube borne on Jiran's body. And it's almost like you feel this invisible thread linking you to that tapestry. And I think your eyes are just like something else compels you to turn and look as a second invisible thread seems to connect that tapestry tube all the way out past the crowd toward where Dr. Oluso is currently standing talking to Squeak.
I don't want to interrupt. Do either of you see that?
See what?
A little, like a little thread? It's like leading to Dr. O.
No?
Okay. It's nothing then. I'm gonna go, I might go talk to Dr. O actually and just go like check on them.
I think Sitlali kind of reaches out and just like traces the weave with one finger just to like check on it. And I think it kind of lights up like a couple of colors when she does. Yeah, I guess go check in with Dr. O.
And please tell them to get Squeak off of the roof.
I don't think there's any
it's kind of funny.
Squeak off of there.
Yeah, but she's kind of yelling at everybody, and it's freaking some people out.
True.
I think she's kind of earned it.
Has she?
I get that feeling.
Well,
we can agree to disagree on that, maybe.
Sitlali, I really do want to catch up later, especially because I did get your letter, and I got your letter, but I'll see you in a little bit. And Gentle just like about faces and walks away.
Yeah, see you in a little bit. That's
And I think we followed Gentle turning around and striding toward Dr. Oluso, yes?
Absolutely.
They are sort of standing at the base of their cottage like, a puzzled look coming over their face as they're kind of shouting up at Squeak, who's on the roof. And Squeak is in the middle of talking to Dr. Oluso, but also shouting orders, being like,
It's so great to see you again, Hitsageton. Oh, 1 second. How many times do I have to tell you the chickens are off limits? Scram! Anyway, I've been going to therapy.
And Gentle, you arrive on that, and Dr. Oluso turns to face you. Gentle, it's so good to see you again.
Hi, Dr. O. How are you? First off, I like the new outfit. Also, do you want like a ride up there to go talk to Squeak?
No,
I can just like do that.
It's totally fine. I appreciate the offer, and I do know you can fly. Very cool. But
sure.
I'm good. Squeak and I were just catching up. Are you all right? Was there something you needed from me?
So, it's gonna sound a little weird, but there's like a little thread kind of, like I can see it's kind of telling me to come talk to you or over to you.
Huh. And Dr. Oluso cocks their head. I think a glint goes over their glasses as they squint their eyebrows inquisitively. And they look from you, I think, back toward the area you left, which is Jiran and Sitlali still kind of by the dais talking with each other in a totally not gay way. And their eyes, I think, actually linger on that like long tube that Jiran has that the tapestry of the stranger is in. And they like follow back to you. This is actually a really great coincidence. I was just thinking of asking Jiran if I could see that tapestry.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Do you want to go say hi and get it back, or I can grab it for you? What'll work easiest for you?
How about this? Jeron! Hello! Good to see you again. Sorry about the horns. Can I see that tapestry?
Oh, hey, Dr. O. Yeah. So, Molly, give me one sec. And Jeron goes over to Dr. O.
And as Jeron hustles over, Gentle, that feeling only grows. Like, this is the right thread. There's like no other way to tell it. It's like if you're in a good groove of telling a story and like you found the right one to pull on, you found the right threads. If you're in the middle of facilitating perhaps a collaborative improvisational session of role-playing amongst friends, you're like, this is the hook that's gonna get them. And you find that hook and you pull on it as like Jeron's coming closer. Like something about getting the tapestry here feels right.
I think like that feeling, it's kind of overwhelming for Gentle, actually. Sort of like kind of taking a minute to just sort of listen and watch things play out for a second before they sort of decide to move.
Hey, you wanted the tapestry? I don't really think it's a good idea to put it out here on the ground. Can we go inside, or?
Oh, no problem. And Dr. Oluso sweeps an arm out and creates like a table made of hard light, like a floating blue disc. Like that's quite broad, like big enough to seat like 8 people at. Do you think that's big enough? Should I make it bigger?
That works too. Depending on if the other members of the Alliance want to be here for this.
You know what? I'm pretty sure they'll come when there's something I need to just double check first. Do you mind? And they like gesture at you to unravel it across the disc.
And Jeron does.
And
like,
it's
very
quite heavy.
Carefully.
Yeah, the tapestry's heavy as hell because it's like a massive rug, right? Those things are heavy, but together you and Dr. Oluso and Gentle, if you'd like to pitch in, are able to sort of like unscrew the top of the tube and like lay the tapestry out across the disc. And we see this like long, gorgeous work of art, right? 8 symbols arranged in a powerful circle, each representing a different paragon and their god. A story is depicted, a tale of a desperate battle fought between the paragons and these black and crimson threads that you figure represent the stranger. And of course, at the very bottom of the tapestry, which had been unraveled when you first encountered it, but is now whole, we see the conclusion of this story. The stranger leaves, and the realms are devastated because of it. And yet, there is still a grain of hope. That circle of 8 paragons remains unbroken. And as you like lay this tapestry out, Dr. Oluso looks down and nods and nods. Right, yes, of course. All right, one moment. And they are going to whisk their hand in a circular motion, and a similar like hard light disc appears underneath their feet and sort of elevates them up, like above the crowd so they can get like a good vantage point on the entire camp. All right, let's see. And they look down at the tapestry and then up at the star. And then back down at the tapestry and back up at the star. And then they seem to reach a conclusion. Everyone. And when they say everyone, their voice is magically amplified. So the entire like camp, the immediate vicinity can hear them. And I think like the murmuring and the hubbub and the chattering and the clucking of the chickens, all of that like dies down as people start to turn their faces toward where Dr. Oluso is elevated just underneath the roof of the cottage. Hello? Sorry, I don't mean to bother you necessarily, but I do have some important things I think to discuss and talk about. If the paragons who are all here and our darling friends might congregate, anyone else, members of the Alliance, please. And as Dr. Oluso starts like talking, people start like moving out from like the camp generally and approaching this table. And as like folks start maneuvering their way out of the crowd, I assume the 8 of you as well also start to like gather around this table. You like pick yourselves up from the little copses of friendship that you found amidst this chaos. And eventually, very soon, we see just like a small crowd of people gathered here with Dr. Oluso sort of like elevated on this platform. All right. It's so good to see all of your faces. First of all, it's been so long since I actually don't think it's ever happened before, where all of us have been gathered here, a representative from every member of the Alliance and all the Paragons. Thank you for being here. So, in the first few hours since I've been back home, I've been able to study that star, and I think
I think I know now that I have this tapestry. Yes, exactly. I think I know what's going on here. That star, that's not actually a star in the normal Andakin sense of like a celestial body or a representative of a emissary soul. It's a hole? A portal of sorts, perhaps. It is a window into the after. Observe. And they gesture at the tapestry for all of your eyes to fall upon. This isn't just a beautiful story and a tapestry telling of what happened in the First Stranger War. This is also a message and a spell. Now, both of these things are very well concealed, and frankly, I don't think anything short of an analysis of, well, my caliber could have deduced that. But this is magic. This is a spell. Quite a powerful one, too. Allow me to reveal it. And Dr. Oluso sweeps an arm over the space atop the tapestry, and this bright blue light starts glowing over specific threads until all of you see a second story interwoven through the main one, sort of hidden by clever thread work and magic. Kind of like an optical illusion. Like you weren't able to see it in that perspective until Dr. Oluso pointed it out. And this second story depicts a star at the center of that circle. And surrounding that star are thick black threads of empty void, like a plate of just oblivion. But pushing that void back, you see symbolic depictions of hands, many hands, lifting up that star, opening it up to become bigger and bigger and bigger. Right, yes, so an interpretation. This message, I am 93% sure, tells us what exactly the cataclysm is. Will be from their perspective, I suppose. See here, these black threads around the star eating the light, that's the vanishing. That's the cataclysm, right? It's the nothing plane. Somehow, during the cataclysm, the nothing plane got pulled around the now, separating our material existence from the after and the beyond, which means the after and the beyond are still out there, they're just on the other side of the nothing plane. It's like we're covered by a sheet, and the other planes can't reach us. But that star, in the center of this circle, and above our heads, that star is a hole through the sheet. And the spell inside this tapestry, it can, I believe it can pull the after back in, through the hole, back toward us. Or, we're pushing the never past the after, using that hole as a breakthrough point, same difference. What really matters is, I think we can bring the after back, using the spell inside this tapestry. I don't think the spell can quite reach the beyond. I don't think it's powerful enough. That's where the influence of this magic ends. But still, the after can return. Most of the stars will come back. The cataclysm will kind of begin to end.
As a storyteller and weaver of tales and is from Morose, looking at this story, second story that the doctors showcase, will Voska come to that same conclusion, like just seeing like the interpretations of the thread within it?
Yeah, why don't you roll history with advantage?
Sure, that is a plus 14. That's a 19 and a 13, so 19 plus 14.
33?
3, yep.
Dr. Oluso's... Jesus fuck. Dr. Oluso's analysis is spot on. Couldn't have said it better yourself.
You're right. That is... I think... I do agree with you, Doctor.
We could do it. We could. Well, Shuhei had us contained on Adolin. The stars were back. The weave was real. We could do it here. We could pull it back.
I think we should.
Yes, right. So do we need to do it like we did in Jukai? And Sidlali kind of like is shrugging off their bag and like getting ready to get murdered again.
No. I don't think that would be necessary. Nothing here says anything about a sacrifice or souls, being consecrated to the after in any way. But there are two conditions, I think, for the spell to work. The first one is pretty simple. We already have it fulfilled, really. The light of that star must fall upon this tapestry directly. The tapestry is a conduit for the spell to work. We need it. The second condition is a little more complicated. See all these hands depicted symbolically upon the tapestry. More than 8. So many. Pushing back the nothing plane. You see them? I think this means the Paragons can't do this alone. You need help. If we want to bring back the after, we all have to pitch in. Each of us. And Dr. Oluso is addressing the 8 of you and everyone else around as well. Like Kane, Halo, etc.
What do we need to do?
And Dr. Oluso's gaze falls on all of you. And I like to ask each of you the same question, which is, what one action do you take to aid this spell?
Oka's gonna start by trying to recreate that spell work that they shoved their blood into, that Shuhai was using to keep the time loop going, to almost destabilize time and space so that the magic will be able to work. Kind of like how Kirongbo got sucked through time in a few seconds. Basically trying to do something similar. So they're gonna start like going around and bloodletting like that same kind of magical ancient sigil that Shuhai was carving in Jukai to the best of their ability.
Ontological magic, reality bending spell work, I see. All right. I think that's what you do, Oka. You nod, and how does this manifest around you?
It starts with Oka just starting the blood spell work, like a big circle with enough space for a lot of people to be inside. And they start kind of herding people to different spaces with where different sigils would go. I don't think they draw those sigils, but it starts to almost like the wind blows a little bit slower when you get in there, and time and space feel a little bit heavier and slower inside the sigil before the spell is even active already.
I love that. I think we see blood, rope, and spell work begin to just leash out of Oka and form almost like the foundation or the base to hold the spell in, where each different person gets to go to a different area to sustain their own part of the spell to contribute to it. I really like that. Who's next?
I think Jiran, having had this tapestry for so long and having had a chance to go back home and to study Morozan weaving, has become, I think, intimately familiar with this tapestry in particular. And now that he has a stronger connection to the weave than he used to as well, I think the way that Jiran helps is he taps into that connection, specifically through thread work, through weaving. And he is essentially, I think, unraveling the part of the tapestry that has the nothing plane depicted on it, those thick black threads. I think he's magically unstitching from this tapestry, and it's mirrored, I think, in our reality, in the now, that as this tapestry starts to unravel, so does the nothing plane from the now.
I really like that. I love that. Beautiful. I think we see those black threads starting to spool off, almost like the surface of the tapestry a little bit, as you're threading your intention into focus, into reality through the weave. Who's next?
Abiku sits wherever she gets herded to by Oka. And much as she did before, she digs one hand into the ground, and she'll take her bow in the other hand and raise it to the air. And he's unsure if she can reach anyone, but the war's finally over, and she's calling on her ancestors to help save Ndake one more time.
Abiku, I think as you thread your bow and start to string it and aim it toward that star, you feel another presence come up next to you, as wordlessly Taktoa Kagan also takes Sunshot off her back, sort of looks at you sideways, nods, and does the same thing, ready. She pulls Sunshot back and aims it up and looks at you, waiting for the trigger word.
Who's next?
Voska, I think, just instinctively hearing Dr. Oluso on the same wavelength, understanding exactly what is necessary, the kind of power, the kind of energy that is needed for this, pulls out Parable and begins swinging and dancing as she will begin using her soul magic to tap into everyone's abilities and energies and amplifying it. And the music that plays from Parable as she swings and dances all around them is this ignition of percussion that just amps everyone up and gets them ready to give their all to bring back the after.
I really like that. I think you're causing music to sort of like swirl and thrum and beat around the air around all of your friends. And as Parable swings, I think we actually see Kane step forward and sort of like toss their wavy hair behind their shoulder, and they start to join you in a duet. And they're a very good dancer. They are like very intuitive. Their movements are sharp and strong, like both like masculine and feminine and something beyond and neither at the same time. And they are so bold as to step between you and Parable, and they like seem to be able to track where you're swinging Parable, and they like step over it, and then they like move around it, they duck underneath it, they like, you know, move to the side, and like the two of you are joined together in this dance. And like their movements are empowering your spell work as well. They're like threading it through with their own bardic magic. So, who's next?
I hate to be predictable. I hate it. I hate it so much. But if there's anything I'm going to do, I think it's combining sort of Gentle's intuitiveness for the world around them. Sort of using their energy to make, I think, a tea for literally everyone in the circle, but one absolutely with sort of the natural energy of the world around them. Sort of, I think, grounding everyone, making everyone sort of feel that extra level of synchronicity as they just run through the crowd offering little cups of tea.
I love that. I think as you're running around, someone steps gently in your way, and it is Duke Sweetbreeze, Root, who sort of like smiles, showing these like gleaming teeth, right? Like his braids sort of falling out of his face, and he offers a hand that's glimmering with druidic magic. May I bless that cup?
Absolutely.
And Root helps by, I think, enchanting your tea with like bolstering energy and magic. Who's next?
I think Vasanti sort of steps up to this group that is forming, and she instinctively puts up her broken hand to try to cast some magic, and then she just feels the weave like cut off near her wrist, and it's like, oh yeah, I can't use that arm. So she brings up the other arm, and you see like she really has to like concentrate a bit harder because she's not used. It's like, you know, it's you work out this hand so much the other hand isn't as strong, but she's focusing, and you see the threads on her face of green and purple from where she almost dissolved glow brighter and brighter as she is going to sort of cast into this space plane shift, but like not in a way to like send us all to another place, but just sending that magic into this sphere to help open up this space into the other plane of the after.
I love that. And I think as your like unskilled hand, right, your lesser skilled hand, your less trained hand moves forward and it's sort of like shaking a little bit as you're trying to channel this magic, you feel Rev sort of step up from behind you, and she like wordlessly holds your hand and helps to stabilize it and guide it, right? As she helps you weave plane shift into the reality of Oka's spellwork. Who's next?
Dewey has been holding his god jar, his god weapon Forge, and he hasn't used it in quite a while, quite a few days. So it's been absorbing starlight from the one star in the sky at night. And he goes, hold on 1 minute. And he runs about like 100 feet away, and he, you see the god jar glow, and he like tips it over, and like this little piece of metal falls out, and he sets it on the ground. And out of that cradle, an enormous crystal ball of sunlight forms, and he summons the Spark of Beltanger, which sheds bright light in the vicinity and also draws magic from the weave that can be harnessed for the spell by up to 8 people, but I assume we'll take what we can get.
That's freaking amazing. Yeah, this fucking crystal ball of pure daylight you produce from Forge.
Also, it's 50 feet wide.
Oh my god!
And Dewey's like, nobody touch this. You're gonna hurt yourself.
Jesus. Okay, yeah. Dewey, is it okay if, like, let's say this ball can float? I think it'd be cool if it floated above all of you, like a miniature version of Galtanger. And as you, like, produce it and it starts, like, glowing, this, like, bright, radiant light, empowering all of your magic, you feel someone step up next to you, and Old Mama Lightning shakes her, like, hair out and, like, sort of, like, sets her cane down gently, I think, next to where she's standing, sort of turns to you with her mismatched eyes and grins and says, "You know what's cooler than a ball of sun?
Whatever you're about to do, I'm sure.
A ball of lightning sun!" And she shoots her fingers forward, and literal lightning explodes out of her palms and zaps against this ball, this crystal, and starts to make it, like, spin and whir. It's just, like, supercharging, I think, this artifact you've produced and, like, making it uber powerful. It's like fire and electricity sparking off of it like a Tesla coil. And Sitlali, what action do you take?
I think Sitlali sits where they are directed, and I think she focuses on the 3 times that they've been to the after and what that felt like and what the after is like and how different it is, and just kind of, like, grabs hold of a little, almost like a bouquet of weave, and focuses on that feeling with, like, a hand over those marigolds, and just kind of, like, tries to be an anchor. And I think the amount of concentration, I think they might get a slight nosebleed.
I really like that. And I think, similar to Vasanti, you feel like a stabilizing presence pull up next to you as, like, blood starts to trickle past your lips, and you're just holding your hand out in a clenched fist. You feel every string of the broken weave here connected to your hand as a nexus point, stabilizing everyone else's actions, holding it all together within this web that Oka has created. And you just hear Mercy's voice next to you, so, like, serious. "You got this, Sitlali. You always have." And I think as, like, the final action, also stepping into this, like, blood circle, is your father, Oka. Emperor Zhen of Xiong, right? She actually produces, in a flurry of her long sleeves, Omen, her paragon weapon, that magical Gutian that just sort of floats in front of her, zither. And she starts to play music, complementing Voska's own percussion and Kane's dance perfectly. And Halo splays her hands out, closes her eyes, and begins to sing. It is in ancient Tu, this language that just, like, flows out of her throat and weaves around everyone else's actions, helping to tie it all together, suffusing everyone with strength.
If it's okay, I think as everyone steps into their piece of the spell work, it's almost like we've recreated the circle at the top of the tapestry. And I think, like, the halos behind Oka's head, like, whirl, and then as the last people step into the circle and add their magic in, all of the halos click and time stops around them.
That happens. Time freezes. I think we actually see, like, beyond this circle, like a butterfly that was flapping by, and its wings just stop. But all of you are still moving. All of you are still spinning the spell into existence, calling, singing, dancing, praying, pleading, asking for the after to return. And basked in the light of that single star above your heads, the threads on this tapestry begin to glow. Bright, 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 like incandescent molten lava, like a sunbeam, like frost, like the stinging wound of life, like the whirling matrix of time. The light above the weftwork thickens. Wind
whips all around you. Timeless dust swirls. A massive magnetic sensation rips through your souls, not painful, but breathless and divine. And then, boom! A pillar of radiance explodes toward the sky, punching out of the tapestry. And from a distance, we see this shaft like a finger of a god curling upward toward that star. The pillar of this light hits it, and the horizon above your heads ripples. Like a pebble dropped into a lake, like a lover's scarf unfurling in the wind. Waves of magic undulate. And then a second star appears. And then a third. And then a fourth. A fifth. A 10th. A 100th. Radiant, blooming, growing, spackling outward from the first like flecks of paint from a brush. That magnetic sensation vibrates through the air as the after reconnects with the now. And we're gonna take a break there. So we will be back in 10 minutes. We love you all so much. Enjoy the music. Oh my God. I'll be back in 10. Pisho.
Hello, 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 Transplanar friends and family. GM Connie here with a very exciting word from one of our incredible sponsors for Arc 6 of the Second Stranger. Roll is an alternative to complex virtual tabletops, instead serving as a people-first online play and creation platform for TTRPGs and all sorts of social narrative play. With a focus on high-quality video, intuitive code-free creation tools, and simple, seamless gameplay for everyone, Roll is the easiest place for you to run your games online. Also, with Roll's drag and drop sheet builder system, you can create content for any game you want to play, even your own homebrew hacks. Tell the stories you want to tell. Roll empowers you to do so. Also, Roll is 100% free for anyone to use all the time. So sign up today and run your next game at playroll.com. Roll, you can play with us. Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Arc 6 Interlude. God is the sound of a promise breaking. Let's get right back into the session. This is going to be the last little bit of Arc 6. I'm so excited. So content warnings for the rest of the session and the campaign in general may include fantasy violence, depictions of war, earthquakes, body horror, gore, blood and bloodletting, apocalypse, trauma and grief, death of loved ones, familial struggles, complex and complicated relationships, romance, alcohol and substance use, and references to sexual entanglements. So use !CW at any time in chat for a full list of these content warnings and !safety for a look at the cast's lines and veils to know what content we'll never talk about, no matter how dark things get. So, with that out of the way, let's hop right back into the session. For an infinity that is also just a heartbeat,
Time hangs still as stars spackle the sky in every direction. And then there is a noise, like a joyous dam breaking as time around all of you starts to speed up. We see those butterfly wings flap, 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 and like resume back to normal time as every single person in Andake reacts. You all hear screaming, cheering, sobbing, crying, laughing, applause, fireworks exploding on the near horizon, music, singing, stomping, chanting, yelling, every noise available in the repertoire of personhood. The stars are back. The stars are back. Not all of them. The constellations of the 8 are still gone. The beyond is still past our reach. But as that pillar of light dies down and the tapestry starts to crumble into dust, consumed by the power of this spell, and this pressure subsides all around you, and the soldiers and the people and the alliance and the everyone start rejoicing, it is infectious. It feels like a victory, because it is. And I want to know how each of you is responding as your magic starts to be consumed by the spell. We see that massive, glowing, sparking ball of radiance also wither up toward that star and get devoured and embraced and loved by the after, drifting back toward the now. How are each of you responding?
I look at Taktoa and I just say, it's beautiful, isn't it?
And she like lowers her bow after having like shot that message up toward the after alongside you. Yeah. And she looks down at you. I think your skin radiant under the glow of 1,000,000 stars overhead. Yeah, it is. Who's next?
I think I looked towards Bud, who was a baby a year ago. And I point out, I think, some of my favorite stars that I used to look at a lot when I was younger. And I just show them to him.
What? This is what it used to look like? But it's so bright, and it's so, what? Wow.
Okay, take your time, you'll get used to it.
Oh, that one's, what did you call it? That one's Lupercal, right?
Yeah.
Wow. And you just see Bud's tail just whipping and wagging uncontrollably behind him as he's just looking like, we see the stars reflected in his huge black glistening eyes, his like nose just going and sniffing. And you hear Root chuckle next to you and fold his arms over his chest, watching the two of you bond. Who's next?
I think Vasanti is feeling sort of her magic, revving back down. And she's so genuinely surprised. She genuinely didn't think that she would see the stars again in her lifetime. That she is overcome with tears. And she just this smile from ear to ear erupts on her face, and then she looks over to Rev real quick and just with no warning whatsoever leans over and just lays a big kiss on Rev and just spends the rest of the time just sort of nestled in Rev, looking at the stars and just crying a happy cry.
I don't think the two of you even say anything to each other. Rev kisses you back immediately. She's also crying silently. She's just laughing and crying, and she holds you tight in her arms as the two of you just stargaze. Who's next?
Dewey grabs the person closest to him, which I think is Obama Lightning, and he grabs her by the waist and jumps up and down, and this is before she's even finished casting her spells, so he gets charged up with static electricity and all of his feathers go poof. And he's jumping up and down.
she's jumping up and down with you, like joining your enthusiasm. For like an older woman, she has a lot of energy and seems to be like full of it. And like she's like making you puffier and puffier and puffier as the two of you jump up and down and like hold each other. They're back! They're back, Dewey! They're back! We did it! We did it!
And then he realizes, oh, I've never met this woman before, and he's just like, and lets go and smooths down his feathers. Good work. Well done.
Well done to you, kid! As she claps you on the back with surprising, bracing strength. Who do we pan to next?
Voska's is quiet as she supports her lower back with her left hand and twirling parable in her right as she looks up, hiding away her tears. I hope you find your way home.
And Kane, I think you have that really like solemn, beautiful moment with yourself looking up at all these stars, and then you're hit from the side by like a bundle of midnight blue as Kane just hugs you. Wow, you are a fantastic dancer, might I say.
I might say the same thing about you. Who knew that the champion of Nabal had such skill?
Well, yes, my dancing used to be deadly. I've learned not to kill people with it. But the stars are back. I never thought I'd see the day. I mean, obviously I believe in the paragons, including you, but it's a little bit up against a stranger. I mean, come on, the odds are a little... But this is hope, you know? I hadn't felt it since I met Oka, and I feel it again.
Don't lose it. We can win this.
And Caden like looks at you with like a new kind of light in their eyes, and they nod. Who's next?
I think Jaron, seeing the stars come back, is first distracted by it all. Like, he can't tear his eyes away from this light that hasn't been in our world for the better part of a year. And then when they finally look back down, I think their eyes immediately fall on Oka first. And they don't waste a moment. They run over to Oka, like grab them, and I think just kiss them. Long and deep, like it's maybe going to be the last time that they get to.
Oka kisses you back. And I think when they pull away, finally, after a long moment, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving you alone here.
What do you mean?
I can't. Oblivion is its own form of stagnation, and I can't. I can't leave anymore. I don't want to. I'm not going to. I promise.
Stars kiss me?
Dreams leave me. Never.
And I think Jaron goes in for another kiss.
And I think on that we cut over to Sitlali.
Sitlali stares at the stars. Let's go of the weave. Lets out a breath that they have been holding. And casts Sending. Leaf is over there, safe and sound. Misses you, I think.
Rev, while holding Vasanti, looks up suddenly and turns in your direction, Sitlali, having received that message. And you see something flicker across her golden and black gaze. But before that resolves, we're gonna cut back to Oka.
Oh, gay part 2. Oka, I think, like, twirls Jaron out into Kane's arms, right? And they, like, take, like, 2 huge beats of their wings, and they do, like, an arc up and over, right? Just because they want to get just a little closer to the stars. And they land in front of Dr. Oluso, pick them up so that both of them hover just a few inches off the ground, and they kiss them.
Kane screams when they see this happen. I knew it! Yes, I knew it! And like they're just sort of like laughing and giggling and leaning into you, Jaron.
Yes, darling, this wasn't a surprise. I thought I told you this when I came to visit you in Naval?
What, they've never kissed before, Jaron. A crush is different from a confirmed... Oh, gods. Well, you wouldn't know that. You're not from the Nation of Love. And we cut back to Rev, who finally breaks away from Sitlali's gaze, squeezes Vasanti once reassuringly, as she lets go, as if to tell her, like, I'm not leaving you, I just need to do something momentarily. And Rev steps forward in the midst of all this celebration, of all the fireworks going off from, like, the war camp and from the people participating in the great pilgrimage beyond the Euclid Chasm. There's, like, people are already celebrating. Like, this is like this is like actual Adolin. And amidst all of this, Rev steps forward. She holds out her arm, and ribboning into existence, we see Grim, flashing in her hand. Its silver blade, bright and shining and glinting under the light of 1,000,000 stars. She takes in one deep breath, the feathered pauldrons on her shoulders shaking. Then she exhales, holding Grim out like a prayer. She closes her eyes, and her cape behind her starts to rise up and ripple as magic begins to flurry around the paragon of the Raven Queen. A shine flashes across that blade, and curling off its steel surface like smoke, rising up toward the after, is every single soul Rev has reaped in the vanishing. We see dozens at first, and then hundreds, and then thousands of souls, lifelike, as big as they were when they were alive, swirling up into the air, headed up, 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 toward that ethereal plane, toward that after. And amongst these souls, ballooning out of Rev in a brilliant bonfire of mist, several look familiar. One of them is a feeless man, black-furred, sharp-clawed, a prosthetic tail curving behind him. Bloodthirst looks askance once in Kane's direction as Kane freezes with Jaron in their arms before Bloodthirst vanishes toward the stars. Another familiar soul is a white dragonborn man in a pristine suit and tie, a golden tooth flashing. And Sievert turns and only has eyes for Vasanti, reaches out towards you, grasping through inches of space, but also millions of light years of distance, and then disappears. We also see Tamba, that half-elf woman in her full draconic mage form, a long, copper-scaled dragon that dwarfs the other souls around her with 8 sets of wings down her spine, thick tufts of black fur protruding from her chest. She snakes up, 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 swimming toward the sky, and goes. And next, we see Ravi, a hobgoblin woman with dark hair cropped by her chin. She's wearing armor. Her crimson skin is crisscrossed with lightning scars. Her gaze lingers on you, Oka, once, and then falls past you onto Mercy, whose eyes are brimming with tears as she's looking up at Ravi. And before Ravi also vanishes, she actually drifts down toward Mercy, cups a hand behind her head, and they touch foreheads together, one last time. We also see Tyrion. He appears as a long, powerful, alabaster-scaled draconic mage, even bigger than Tamba was. Sharp claws flexed, he is impossible to miss. As he spirals and swims up toward the sky, he cocks his head to one side in Vasanti's direction. The look in his sharp, piercing, cold blue eyes unreadable before he, too, disappears. And finally, we see a blue-skinned Triton woman with a strong face, a sharp jaw,
handsome, pearlescent horns. Long, kelp green hair spills past her shoulders, and she holds a golden trident in one hand. She twists in midair, her gaze searching until it lands on Voska.
I think Voska is shocked. She did not know where Atalanta was, and now she's there. And I think like Voska like steps forward, like trying to inch ever closer, her arms reaching out, her scales are standing on end. She's reaching out to her.
Oka, you look like there's something you want to do.
So I'm a really powerful necromancer, right? And kind of also a time wizard.
Okay.
I want to hold her there for 30 seconds. As I think Oka inhales, and at the top of their breath, they're going to try to slow everything down again. So it'll hold until they need to take another breath so they can have a last dance.
By the power of gay, I will allow it. Oka, you inhale and you hold that breath in your lungs. And only for Voska and Atalanta does time feel like normal. But around that bubble of just the two of you, it feels like time slows down, because it does.
Voska runs to Atalanta and reaches out to her.
Atalanta reaches out as well.
I found you.
Voska. And her voice sounds so far away, like it's at the bottom of a well, echoing up toward you. And when you try to get to her, your corporeal form slides past her like she's a ghost. Because she is. You can't touch.
I can't even touch you. And just kind of like hovers her hand over Atalanta's. I never thought I would see you again.
Darling.
Tiger.
My crate. And her hand slides through your hand up toward your chin, and though you know her fingers will move through you, she's trying to like cup your chin up to look at her. Don't cry. We'll see each other again soon. I know we will.
Wait for me. I'll be there.
I will wait for as long as it takes. 1,000 years, 10,000, an infinity.
And I think like Voska hovers her hand over Atalanta's hand, her tears already kind of frozen into marks of ice upon her face, and hums their song. The song she sang when they first met in that forest.
As you hum, Atalanta's transparent hands cup you at the waist, at the cheek, and she starts to dance with you in a slow, swaying duet. And that moment holds for you, Voska, for a lifetime. And then Oka takes in another breath, releases, and time also is freed. The present catches up, Atalanta starts to disappear, and the last thing you hear and you sense from her are the words, I love you.
I love you. And Voska will turn to Oka. Thank you, my wolf.
And Oka just kind of nods and daubs away a thick nosebleed that's starting to run down their face.
The last of the souls disappear up into the skyline. We pan up toward that starry night sky, shot through with cosmic dust, pinpricks of stars all over the place, millions and millions of glowing motes of hope. And when we pan back down, the party is in full swing. Now that the after is back, my friends, how do each of you spend the rest of the night?
I think Vasante, during all of that, when Sievert comes up and she sees Sievert, She's doing a lot of crying tonight. She starts crying again, but like, for as much as she hated Sievert for the last 7 years, there's that much love knowing everything he did for her entire life, unbeknownst to her. And then when she sees Tyrion, even though she's surrounded by hundreds of people in all directions, it is as though she is completely alone. Everyone just fades away in her existence. And I think she makes a face that when Rev is done, she probably turns and sees this face on Vasanti. That probably the only other time anyone who's ever seen this would probably be when Sievert was standing over Vasanti when she was dangling off that ledge into that trap when they were trying to do that last con. That hurt and just not understanding how this person could do this to her. And I think just Vasanti starts leaning backwards and Rev's just like the last thing is just watching Vasanti in this very disappointed slump, just like loses herself into the crowd and works towards Dr. O's house.
Do you like hide away in the cottage for the rest of the night?
Yeah, I think so. I think if anyone wants to see Vasanti, she's gonna be in there alone.
I think Rev is definitely going to run after you and try to talk to you.
I think before Vasanti reaches the cottage, she turns around and says, I asked you, and screams so that everyone can hear this, I asked you for one thing before I passed out after I killed him, was to not take his soul with you. I had one request, and you broke that. You broke it. And then you just hear, like, stay away from me. And Vasanti, like, whips around and walks away in a very angry march.
Okay. And I think all of you hear Rev say before you, like, stride away from her, Vasanti, please, I could never have done that. And you storm off. And I think that's Vasanti's night. I think the rest of you could, like, try to check in on her, but, like, from her end, that's what she does. And Rev respects her wishes, leaves you alone, but is, like, nervously orbiting the porch and, like, checking with every person that tries to go to talk to Vasanti, right? Like, trying to ask them to, like, bring her a message from her. All right, who's next?
I think that happens, and you see Bhikkhu in a corner talking to Sitlali, like, pulling her chunks in, like, watches, and is, like, you hear, like, something's like, I'm Rev's keeper, I think. Should I go, like, talk to her?
Are you Rev's keeper or are you the Raven Queen's keeper? Because I'm still trying to figure that out too. If, like, am I Oka's keeper? Am I Sin's keeper? Like, what is the balance there?
Like, oh, she has the God Shard. I should make sure she's okay, I think.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Oka's fine. I mean, yeah. I guess I should see if they meet. Did they tell you what keeper meant before you said yes? Because, like, Sen and I didn't really get to talk about it. It just sort of happened.
Yeah, I think just this kind of back and forth, like, is there a benefits package? I felt under duress, like, that kind of, like...
Yeah.
Wait, I love that. Speaking of a benefits package, I want to know what Gentle's doing.
I hate that we have the same brain there. Gentle is talking to Mercy. I think Gentle is holding, like, 2 little pamphlets and, like, maybe a crudely drawn, like, note with ideas of just, like, so after we save Ndake, I was thinking about maybe going off on my own to start this thing called the Gentle Wolves, because I really like what we do here, but I do want to be able to, I think, keep helping in a way that doesn't involve fighting monsters. And I do have a second lined up. It's Jiran.
What? Whoa! Gentle, you know the Hounds of Mercy's trademark, right? So the Gentle Wolves, that's Mercy, Gentle, Hounds, Wolves. That's a little, kind of stepping on my toes here.
I mean,
Gentle?
But it's a different, we're not competing in the same type of area. I don't want to fight monsters anymore. I like doing kind of what we did in Dabasati. Like,
what, your charity work?
Yeah.
So you're starting up a non-profit?
Yeah, I mean, you weren't necessarily the best at paying us anyway. At least
You
me.
should have bought these 3 fucking tongues. Are you kidding me? What is this? And like Mercy grabs one of the pamphlets. Dental and vision? Are you kidding me? You know how expensive that's gonna be?
Yeah, but it's worth it because we want to be able to help everybody, and that includes the people doing the helping.
And like, I think like the rest of the conversation is Mercy surprisingly like the anger sloughs off her, and she just kind of actually like claps a hand on your shoulder and nods. First of all, when she realizes you're not in direct competition with her, and second of all, when she's like, she like nods and she starts talking you through it and giving you unsolicited advice about like how to exploit your workers under the gentle wolves. And we're gonna cut to a different part of the party where we find Sitlali.
Yeah, I think Sitlali wanders their way over to Voska at some point.
Voska just got out of Dr. Oluso's house getting changed into a different set of clothing, and it is basically the reverse of her previous clothes. It is gold with black accents instead this time, and it has like a little like chest window almost like with a deep cut V where you can see Voska's top surgery scars. And she like finally steps out, like clearing her face, and her hair is clearly still wet from whatever like face washing she just did, and she just kind of sees you. Oh, Sitlali.
You remember that conversation we began on the way back from Jukai?
Yes. Did you perhaps we better talk inside then?
Perhaps not so close to their homestead. A field?
Lead the way.
And I think they begin to lead Voska off somewhere little
Maybe by the
less...
chickens?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, Squeak might be there.
Maybe by like the fallow training field, which
sure,
compared to the rest of the military camp's training fields is rather small and like underutilized. So I think there we find Voska and Sitlali talking to each other in kind of like hushed tones away from everyone else. And like what kinds of like looks do we see transpire across your faces?
There is no trust. The work never stops. Sitlali is a suspicious bitch. Like, Sitlali doesn't know how to take a break. Sitlali's tired. Sitlali has done some math and has several theories that they share with Voska about the good doctor, particularly in light of a certain battle where a certain doctor took a certain zero amount of damage. So, yeah.
I think Voska's face is that of back to that cold neutrality of hearing all of this and weighing it very, very balanced and not dismissing but not wholly like taking on all the theories either, because there's clearly we're missing something, and I think that's what she communicates to Sitlali, is that whatever thing is missing, unfortunately in this circumstance, can make or break whatever suspicions that Sitlali has. And that could be the crux of this whole thing, and that should be their next focus, is to determine what is going on, truly.
And I think on that, like, we cut away from that scene of the two of you just, like, silhouetted in that field under the light of the stars, Voska being level-headed, Sitlali being like, what about this? Or this? Or this? But, like, exhausted and so full of all of these secrets that they haven't told anyone until now. And now we cut over to Dewey.
I think that Dewey has pulled Jerron aside and is like, how's the handmaid doing? What happened to...
About that? And Jerron kind of... You see that two of the fingers on Jerron's prosthetic have been, like, very crudely fixed. Like, it's very clearly not the original workmanship, and Jerron did their best in trying to replace the two fingers that were lost.
What happened to my beautiful work?
There were surveillance rings, and they were also teleportation rings. Don't stick your fingers in them, is what I've learned.
I wasn't going to. Jerron, I was going to entrust you. You know Vasanti's hand also got fucked up. I was gonna entrust you to take charge on that project, on the hand rebuilding project, but now...
No, I still can. No, I still can do it. You can still trust me with that. I swear, I've been doing so much good work. Did you see what I made for Gentle?
No?
I got them these really cool earplugs that filter sound so that it's less sensory overload for them. I've been practicing.
Okay.
And I actually have some really cool ideas.
Hey, Jaron, before you get a little too ahead of yourself. And Rev actually steps up, like, off the porch of the cottage and approaches you, Jaron, and you, Dewey, and basically kind of almost sheepishly asks the two of you to go in and talk to Vasanti and maybe, like, take a look at her hand because she's not talking to her.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sure that she'll be willing to talk to us. Maybe?
You want to fill us in on what happened between the two of you, or are we just doing a little check on...
Listen, I'm the paragon of the Raven Queen, which means people can die, people can live, but what's not right is desecrating their souls to nothingness. And I think on that, Rev explains everything. She explains Tyrion, she explains the oath Vasanti tried to make her swear, she explains what she did instead, and this all spirals toward the argument, right? And she gestures for the two of you to, like, talk to Vasanti and maybe try to get her hand fixed in some way.
And I think we see Dewey and Sharon, like, probably very sheepishly, very tentatively entering this cottage that Vasanti has squirreled herself away into. Hey, Paragon, how's it going?
I think they walk in. I think the fireplace that, like, Vasanti just loves this fireplace. Is she's sort of made a little home for herself. Her explorer's pack is, like, dumped over just everything all over the place, and she has been crying, but she seems to have reached just a place of numbness. So she sort of, like, looks over and acknowledges and isn't like, oh yay, that was a funny joke, Jerome, but is also not giving you the vibes to go away. And then I think Vasanti sort of, like, reaches over with her hand that's still in a cast, and she just, like, starts explaining that, like, she's so frustrated that she can't even get her hand to work right anymore, and, you know, she just sort of, like, you know, goes on this diatribe of just, like, wanting her hand fixed.
Yeah, and I think John just kind of, like, we see him, like, pull out, like, a journal and just, like, start writing down, like, ideas and stuff, maybe, like, sketching out some blueprints.
Yeah, I think the door closes as Dewey and Jerron tentatively sit down next to Santi.
Nice. And I think on, like, the front door of the cottage, like, clicking shut, finally we pan back over to Oka.
I think intermittently through the night, we see Oka in a variety of places. They're kind of everywhere at once. They go over and they wish Abiku a happy birthday, kind of softly. They hand her, I think, a mouse skeleton that will do a little dance on its own. And they say something kind of awkward about, like, you know, like a cool undead birthday gift. And then they walk away as fast as they can. We see Oka, I think, come up on the scene with Vaska and Sitlali, kind of almost interrupting it, to tell Vaska that their secret performance will be starting soon. But before that, I think we also see them kind of, like, dutifully following Halo around, right? Like, as Halo's going around the party, like, Oka's just kind of, like, trailing her for a little while. We see them, like, exchanging a few words with pretty much everyone, are talking quietly and nodding with Rev. You know, they also go inside the house for a little while. But then I think it's probably time for their little birthday performance.
I think Oka might be wielding a weapon, and Vaska is got her flute by her lips, and I think the performance starts with them on, like, opposite corners of the dance, and they just move closer and closer until they're mirroring each other's movements like a duel, and Vaska has to, like, dodge Oka at just the right moments to feel like she's weaving around them.
And I think Dewey is our musical accompaniment.
Yes.
Voska did teach Dewey a little bit of zither, but I think Voska's recorded like a backing track, so Dewey just has to do like the triangle in an orchestra performance.
I love
It's
that.
definitely offbeat, like more than once, I think, too, somehow.
I'm into it so much. I think Kane's tail flicks every time it's offbeat and like silences it and then holds the note and then like makes it go on beat because they cannot suffer through a bad dance show. They will not. They will not do that. And I think if it's okay with you all, like this, I think dance performance is sort of right at the stroke of midnight. It's like right before, like close to it. It's like 11:50 or something. And like everyone has congregated in this space that used to be the table with the tapestry, but is now like a little dance area. And Abiku, the birthday girl, I think Dr. Oluso and Squeak have insisted on like giving you like a little special seat of honor because Adolin is not just Adolin, it's also your birthday. And this dance goes off and I think it finishes and all the gathered soldiers and nobles and like top talent of the Alliance like clap and they laugh and they cheer right as the dance comes to an end. And then I think we've got like a few strokes till midnight. We've got like minutes until it's happening. And I think all eyes actually turn toward the birthday girl. And you don't know who starts it, but there's a stray toast. And then other people start chiming in, toast, 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 like all prompting you to give a toast.
I do not want any bread, but I can say a few words.
Everyone laughs. They think you're making a charming joke.
Kind of looks at Voska like, everyone is here, so it makes sense. My life has been very long and mostly doing war. All the time has actually been doing war, actually, since I was born. But the first time I met most of you, it was very angry. It did not seem like you all were friends, but I am glad that this time it seems like you all are friends. I don't know what will happen with the stranger, or Andake, or the thing at the bottom of the chasm, but there is something my wife used to say to me when we were trying to stop the war, well, not my war, the 1,000-year war, and that was, as long as we are unified, we have already won, and I think that is what we need going into the next year.
I think there's like some applause and hears, right? But then like amid the applause, someone just sort of shouts out, what was that? It's Mercy. What was that thing about the chasm? Can we backtrack? What do you mean the thing at the bottom of the chasm?
Oh, when we were in the chasm going to Chol, there was something there that's so old I don't even remembering everything that I know from 10,000 years ago. I don't know what it could be.
What did you sense exactly? And this is Dr. Oluso talking to you. Because I've said this several times before. I have long since had my suspicions about the chasm. So what information exactly do you hold, Abiku?
There was something. What did the seed say? The seed said it was something older than Endake. I'm not sure what that means, but it is weird because I definitely died at Tyrion's. Well, the fortress that Tyrion stole from my people. I got stabbed in the back during a battle, but then I woke up in the chasm and I was like, why could that be? But now there's something at the bottom of the chasm. You are all looking like that is something important.
Abiku, you are interrupted. You are interrupted by a beam of light shooting skyward from the southern horizon. It is thousands of miles away, across the southern Hema Sea, and yet you see it here, from the chasm. That's how bright it is. All of you see it now. A thin pillar of crimson radiance exploding upward into the sky. And where this beam connects with the newly starry atmosphere, red begins
to spread like blood across linen. The southern horizon begins to glow a sickly, dull crimson. And all the paragons in this space, as you watch that crimson beginning to eke its way with impossible rapidity across the sky, it feels like a nightmare coming true. And in that heartbeat of horror that clenches the camp tight in its grasp, Princess Kakoa, amidst the silence, stands and whispers, "The URL." And in that exact moment, the earth begins to shake. It is sudden. It is violent. It is destructive. It feels like there's something in the ground, deep, deep, deep beneath your feet, hungry to explode outward, and it's radiating. There's no doubt about it. Emanating from within the chasm behind the homestead. Cracks splinter the earth. Structures around you begin to collapse. Shingles rain from the roof of Dr. Oluso's cottage. The red on the southern horizon continues to expand and spread, metastasizing. It's happening. She's coming. How do each of you react in that moment? And where do each of you go? To the dais, toward Uhanahi, or toward the chasm? And why? Let's start with Abiku.
Abiku shouts, "Remember what I said," and jumps as Sun whips into existence, and now a large drake, and flies towards the chasm, because she's connected with whatever is down there, or with something that knows it's down there, and she woke up there, so it feels like that's where she's supposed to go.
Abiku turns, Sun ribbons into existence, a full obsidian drake now, not just skeletal, and the two of them cut through the crowd and beat it toward the chasm, and chaos, structured chaos, begins to descend upon the homestead. There have been emergency drills, definitely, run by all the leaders of the camp here. They've prepared for every eventuality, and even as people start to scream from beyond the camp, you all hear Takutoa Kagan immediately beginning to bark orders. You all hear the strings of omen being plucked and calming waves of magic sweeping over the gathered people. People begin to scatter and go. It is bedlam regardless of the organization. Voska, how do you react? Where do you go?
Voska sees her dear friend leap into the chasm and grabs Costas by the waist and goes, "Strike Team A," and will start running and whipping Parable, launching it onto a side branch that's dangling off of the chasm, and rappel down with Costas. And just start rappelling down.
Costas is screaming at the top of their lungs. They have no idea what the fuck is happening. And we just hear their scream disappear underneath the lip of the chasm as Voska just vanishes into the dark. Sitlali, where do you go?
To the dais. Because if the URL is involved, and if she really is coming, that means a certain former Imago must be there. But before she starts to climb the dais, I think she grabs onto Gentle's hand. And I don't think there's enough time for them to exchange words, but there's a look, and there's enough in that look. And then she goes.
Speaking of which, Gentle, do you follow?
I don't. I think I climb on Bud, and we head towards the chasm. I worry deeply, I think, about Abiku. I worry about Costas. I've forgotten to know them a bit more, but also this is connected to Dr. O, and I know that if Dr. O's okay, I think a lot of things will be okay. So
I think, if I may, as you hop on Bud and start to jet toward the chasm, all these reasons flitting past your eyes, you also feel that same tugging at your soul. That thread that had led you to the star, led you to the tapestry, brought you toward Dr. O's expertise. It now seems to tug at you from Voska? Or rather, something within Voska. As Bud leaps past the chasm and delves into the darkness as well.
One thing before I think I leap, I give Jerron a look. And I just like shoot a look of like, are you coming with?
Gentle. As you turn to shoot a look toward Jerron, I think actually cutting past your gaze, we see someone else making that same decision. Vasanti.
I think as this explosion of activity started, Vasanti comes out of the house and she's actually putting something on. Something that Jerron and Dewey quickly whipped up in those couple hours. And it's this bracer that goes up and down her left arm. And it looks like dragon scales of black and green scales. That goes up and it actually has like a shoulder pad armor that like straps across her chest and everything. And she's like, she's still tightening the straps on her arm of the bracer. And she like looks, all she sees, she didn't see or hear Obiku's speech about the chasm. So all she sees is this bright light coming from the direction of the URL. And she just thinks, okay, that's it, that's where I'm going. So she immediately just beelines it to the dais and getting ready to cast like teleport, like she's just ready to go. And as she does that, you see the studs in this armor is actually the diamond that was on her chest has been broken up into studs, diamond studs that now line up and they start glowing purple, that same purple that matches her eyes. As then all of a sudden around her hand, instead of like casting with her broken hand, this like spectral mage hand of redness glows around her hand and explodes into a giant dragon claw, very reminiscent of taking inspiration from her aunt she learned about from Tyrion. She feels the weave now through this sort of mage hand around her hand. She feels the weave just like whoosh through her entire hand, and she's getting ready to cast. You can see the sigils starting to light up as she's like getting ready to go. There's like just a few moments ready for people.
Yeah, you see that beam of light coming from the URL. It's time to re-meet Adam again, huh? So you stride toward that podium where Sitlali's headed toward, and I think Rev wordlessly follows you. Like, even though you are having this argument, she is not letting you go alone. And I think we pan over now to Dewey.
Dewey steals himself for a moment and then is out the door towards the teleportation, the dais. And there's like a place to put in the runes on where you're going to go. And his hands are shaking, but it's like muscle memory. He knows the runes to the URL by heart. They're not runes he's done in over a year, but his hands are going over them rapidly. And he's not even looking at it. Instead, his eyes go to the red light in the distance, and something about it feels foreboding and almost familiar.
I will get to you in a second, Dewey. As you run over to the runes on that dais to try to click them into place, almost like a cipher, into like the correct position for the URL's coordinates, we're gonna pan over to Oka.
Oka stares into the sky, wordlessly, frozen in motion as I think everything explodes into motion around them. They're stuck there for a moment, like the horrible dream prophet that they are, stuck in their own nightmare again. And I think it's like Halo's arms that come at their shoulders, like shaking them, shouting something wordless into their face that makes Oka's eyes like focus, both of them like kind of spinning as they like reel and take like 3 beats up into the air just to get away from this overstimulation, get closer to the stars, get further from something. And they look like as fast as they can, looking around, trying to find some semblance of familiarity. They think they see a flash of pastel hair there, but there goes Bud, and where's Jerron, and where's Dr. Oluso, where's Kane? And it's kind of overstimulating, and they get like higher and higher up, and they freeze in the air for a moment before I think they find Dr. Oluso. Where is Dr. Oluso going?
similar to you, there's a split second where Dr. Oluso's on the ground frozen. But unlike the kind of thoughtless, mindless terror I think that seized you, where the only feeling that surged through your body was horror, Dr. Oluso's face is just calculus. Like some sort of algorithmic decision is happening behind those eyes as they look at the beam of light, and then they look toward the chasm, and some sort of equation balances out, and they turn and move just with no doubt toward the chasm.
Oka kind of dives at them in that case, and I think like takes one of their hands to the point where they're both running, but they're both like also floating like a few inches off the ground. Your machine, come on.
I should have planned better for this. I should have. But yes, no, we'll talk about that later. Down it is. And the two of you, I think, breach the edge and dip underneath it, which leaves Jiran.
I think Jiran sees everybody like immediately like move in different directions, and he's pulled in both of them at the same time. They're all making different choices, and he almost wishes that everybody would just stay together, would just pick one together. And they look over at Oka running towards the chasm, and they haven't been together in so long, and Jiran wants so badly to jump into that crevice with them. But something about Vasanti pulls Jiran. Something in his heart, he knows he has to go and protect Vasanti. No matter how badly they want to go into that chasm with Oka, they can't. And so they turn and they run towards the dais, and I think as they're running is when they catch Gentle's eye, as Gentle gives them that look. And when their eyes meet, Jiran just kind of shakes his head, seeing that Gentle is going into the chasm as well. And I think, Gentle, what you see, having known Jiran all of your life, is this deep sadness undercut with anxiety at having to leave you, because we have never been apart. Ever since we were kids, this is literally the first time in our entire lives that we have had to leave each other. And I think that decision breaks Jiran's heart.
And I think we see these two best friends, inseparable from childhood, turning away from each other to pursue their own destinies, tugged in diametrically opposed directions, one toward the chasm, one toward the dais. And I think the last image we get, we swing back to Dewey, who you've clicked the final coordinates in place on this platform. Roll a D100.
The D100 pulled up. That one got teeth. All right. 17.
And as all of your forms upon the dais shoot up toward the sky, and you dematerialize on this scene of chaos, screaming, uncertainty, fireworks still going off in abject confusion and fear. This cottage, ruptured, tiles collapsing in on itself, empty, bereft of the life that just moments ago it was full of. We're gonna close out our Arc 6 interlude. So thank you everyone so much for tuning in. Oh my God, Arc 7 is gonna go off just without a hitch, I'm sure. I've been your GM and creative producer, Connie. My pronouns are they, he, and she. You'd find me all across the internet at by Connie Chung. I'm gonna pass along introductions up and over to C.
Oh my God, I usually go last. Hi, my name is C. I use they, them pronouns. You can find me making very trans, very gay art on the internet at PieSharpArt. Check me out there. I'll pass things over to Humna.
Hello, my name is Humna. I use any and all pronouns, and I need to know what that 17 means. What does it mean? Okay, anyway, you can find me on Twitter at @shahid_, where I talk about all of the different projects that I'm a part of. If you like what I do, go follow me there to see where I am at any given point in time. And I will pass it along to Quinn.
Hi, hello, I'm Quinn, and I use they, them pronouns. Follow me on Twitter at Quintastic_. I am a game designer, sensitivity consultant, wearer of many hats, doer of many things. Yeah, you should hire me for stuff. I'm Emmy nominated. I forget to say that. I should say that more. Yeah, I'm going to pass outros to Austin.
Hey everybody, what's up? I'm awesome. My pronouns are he, they, she. I just got done playing a Biku Ishtar. His pronouns are she, her. You can find me on Twitter at SailorSkidolson. That's at Sailor SCT Austin. I am a game performer, designer, player, lover, and friend. And on that, I will pass it over to Max.
Hello, I'm Max. My pronouns are they, them. I play Dewey Quirk. You can find me on the internet, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter at Starchmonger. I'll pass things to Valiant Dorian.
Hi everyone, I am Valiant Dorian. I see him his pronouns. I'm a TTRPG performer and Twitch variety streamer, and I had the distinct pleasure of playing Voska, the Paragon Nebusa, who is rappelling down into a chasm. That's fine. You can find me around the internet at Valiant Dorian or at Autospirit. Please enjoy that lovely treasure hunt I just sent you on. I'm gonna pass things over to Dare.
Hi, I'm Dare. I think I know my pronouns this time. She, they, and Faye. I played Gentle today. Pronouns they, them. You can catch me on all corners of the internet. Tumblr. I don't know why I led with Tumblr. That's funny. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram at Dare to Dream RPG. DARE, the number 2 DREAM RPG. I'm a game designer, performer, and like 17 other things as well. So catch me out there, and I'm just going to throw it over to Erica.
Hi, everybody. I'm Erica, she, her pronouns, and I played Visanti. I'm going to cry a lot, Nocturzo. I hope she hydrates because she probably cried a lot. You can find me at Erica New Girl most places, or you can see me here on Twitch where I'm a variety streamer at Erica Please. I will pass it back to Connie.
Yes, thank you so much for tuning in. Wow, thank you so much for your support, your donations, your follows, etc. We will be back next Saturday with the first episode of Arc 7, motherfuckers. Episode 1 of Arc 7, and then that's gonna be an 8-episode special arc. 8 episodes only total, so that's gonna be unhinged, and then it's gonna be Arc 8, which is the end of the second Stranger, which is, wow, also wild to think about. So thank you so much for tuning in. We're gonna be rating someone really awesome right now, no doubt. Toss them a follow if you like their stuff. Tell them Transplanar sent you. Use the raid message in chat. Follow all these incredible people all across the internet. We love you so much. Shpijo, Bijo.